Tradition is one of the most stubborn of barriers when it comes to the truth, and we humans are addicted by habit to tradition.
Everything we do in this life is a consequence, and the consequence is most great with our walk as believers.
Be prepared for some startling discoveries when you open the Scriptures for yourself.
I'd like to welcome you to a very special Discover the Truth program. It's a blessing to have you with us. In this program, we're going to review the pro-life issue, and this is actually a part 2 of a 3-part series. With me, we have Alan Mansager, your other co-host. Good to have you with us. Mm-hmm. Very special guest, Carol Tobias with the National Right to Life Committee. And Carol, you've been in the industry for over 30 years, as I understand it. 3 years as president for the National Right to Life. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and also about the National Right to Life?
Okay. Well, I got involved when I was very young, since you mentioned over 30 years. But I got involved in my local community just as a volunteer. And shortly after that, then I started working for North Dakota Right to Life. I was the executive director there. Then I moved out to Washington and became the political director for National Right to Life. And I'm now the president. As you said, I've been doing that for 3 years, and I love the people I work with. They're just absolutely wonderful. National Right to Life is trying to save unborn children from abortion, but we also do have another area that we get involved with, and that's euthanasia, rationing of health care, assisted suicide, that the people at the end of life scale, either because of age or, unfortunately, because of some disability, are also being targeted. So we see that as a grave pro-life concern as well.
I want to say from the beginning of the program, we're not here to condemn. You know, some people, they believe that programs like this one, where they're just condemning those who've had abortions, and that's not the purpose. You know, we know that there's forgiveness to be found in the Bible, and when we sin knowingly, or unknowingly, I should say, that the Father does look down and has compassion upon that. We're really here to bring awareness more than anything, so people understand the sanctity of life, when life begins, and the fact that life is so precious. And that's a tenet and value I think we all agree with here. I want to review just the topics we talked about in the previous program. We talked about the number of abortions here and abroad, and as we talked about, I think what is over 40 million abortions, I think 2008, and just the totality is unthinkable when you consider it. The different stages of abortion, and that was powerful. I really appreciate that, Carol, and stepping through that and helping us understand how abortions occur and the travesty that we're seeing. And then also the fact that there is evidence to support that life does begin inside the womb, you know, both from a medical and from a biblical or scriptural standpoint. Now I want to talk about the reasons for abortion, and maybe you can open this up and talk about why women seek abortion today.
There are a lot of different studies and research projects out there. One of the probably more credible ones would come actually from the abortion industry. The Guttmacher Institute was initiated or formed as a research arm for Planned Parenthood, which is the nation's largest abortion provider. They have broken off now, so they're no longer officially related, but they still work closely together. But back several years ago, they did a survey asking women, you know, why did you get your abortion? And what we found was, 25% of them said that they just weren't ready to have a child or for the responsibility. 23% said that she couldn't afford the child. 19% said that she either has other children and doesn't think she could handle another one, or she's got some other family responsibilities. 8% said a relationship problem or single parenthood. Some of them said that it would interfere with their education or their career. And there was some that said the parent, either their parents wanted them, thought maybe this girl was too young to have a baby, or it might have been a boyfriend pushing them to get the abortion. But all of those reasons, I don't know if you'd call them maybe social reasons, or 93%. When you start talking about either a woman becoming pregnant as a result of rape or incest, or that there are some health problems for the mother, or that maybe there is something, they might say something wrong with the baby, that amounts to about 7% of all abortions. And this was according to Guttmacher. So what we would call the hard cases are really not the ones that are performed most often in this country.
And very specifically, I found a 2004 survey from the Guttmacher Institute, and just to share some of those. According to this survey, having a baby would dramatically change my life. That was, as I understand it, 74%. And really, what that indicates is it wasn't convenient. And that's something, you know, as people, I think we've lost a sense of responsibility in this nation. You know, if we make a mistake, we're to try to make that mistake right. And we can do that through having the child. And we're going to talk about ways to mitigate abortion. And one is through adoption and other ways, which we'll talk about later. Another one is can't afford baby, and that's 73%. Don't want to be a single mother or having relationship problems, 48%. But it gives multiple other reasons, including some. It says husband or partner wants me to have an abortion. That's hard for me to accept, and that was 14%, according to this survey. And then, as you mentioned, was a victim of rape. According to the Guttmacher Institute, this was 1%. According to other references, I've seen less than 1%. So those, as you said, hard cases, they make up just a fraction of the reasons for abortion, and yet most proponents will advocate abortion for these causes.
And they would make you think that, you know, 50% of the abortions in this country are because the woman was a victim of rape. You know, and it really isn't. It's, you know.
And again, as you pointed out, and I think that's
less.
such an important point, is the Guttmacher Institute is anything but a religious organization, and they're certainly not going to inflate the statistics for the more conservative side.
You know, a few years ago in this state, they were arguing the abortion issue, and it was brought out from politics and so forth that rarely is the reason for abortion the health of the mother. Rarely. That's a very small reason to get an abortion. Rarely is the mother's health in danger. But that was one of the big issues they kept bringing up all the time.
Well, most of the abortions are performed on women in their 20s. A lot of that's going to be those who are still in college and they don't want to interfere, you know, want the baby to interfere with their college, or they are just starting a job and they don't want to have the baby then. So those are the more common reasons. There have been some studies that there is more pressure put on the woman from her parents or from her boyfriend than what even some of these would show. That if she would have the support of the father, if she would have the support from someone in the family to say, you know what, you don't have to kill your baby, you can do this and we'll help you through it, she would be much more likely to carry that pregnancy to term.
Do you have
a lot of them are afraid that I can't be a single mom, and I don't know how I'm going to raise this child by myself. I don't know how I'm going to afford to have this child by myself. If there was other support, that would make a huge impact in their decision.
Does Right to Life have programs to do that, to kind of educate the other people involved, to motivate them to accept, you know, a full-term delivery, or
we do try
do you
to
work
point
with
that,
others that do
we do
that?
try to point that out to some extent. I think that might actually fall a little more in the Pregnancy Resource Center area, where they are offering the direct, hands-on support and help to the women.
I wanted to share a few more statistics. This is from Operations Rescue. But it says women give an average of 3.7 reasons why they are seeking abortion. I guess this is looking at all the reasons. And 21%, though, says inadequate finances, 21% not ready for responsibility. 16% women's life would be changed too much. 12% problems with relationships, unmarried. 11% too young and or immature. 8% children are grown, and she has all she wants. And this is those would be I don't know, maybe the soft reasons, or what I would consider more inconvenience issues. And then the latter part here says 3% baby has possible health problems, less than 1% pregnancy caused by rape or incest, and 4% other. So we find here, as you mentioned, you know, about 8% due to health or rape or incest.
If you look at a lot of those reasons, I don't want a baby at this time, I'm starting a new job, so I don't want to have to take maternity leave in a couple of months. I don't think I can afford to have a child at this time. Those are a lot of the reasons that a woman or a couple would use some form of birth control, a contraceptive, the pill or some device. So it's almost similar to saying abortion has become another method of birth control.
Well,
it's a way to just eliminate the pregnancy at that time.
And again, I think this really goes to a issue we have in our culture, and that is a lack of commitment, a lack of responsibility. And you can see this in all kinds of facets within our lives today, but abortion is one. And marriage is one. So many other areas within our lives, people no longer want to take that responsibility and show that initiative. Again, when we've made a mistake, we're to make that mistake right. And I think in regards to abortion, if we have had a child out of wedlock, we must make it right. It's not easy. And my heart goes out to ladies in this situation, but it's the right thing to do, because all life is precious, whether it was planned or unplanned.
That's right, it is.
They always talk about, well, we believe in choice. I believe the choice comes before you have these relations that bring on the baby. That's where the choice comes. Once that's happened, then you got to step up and deal with the issue, and not, again, find an easy way out.
Yeah. No, you're right. Well, I think we're going to take a short break. We're out of time for this segment, but we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the impact to abortion. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Since the infamous court case of Roe v. Wade in 1973, over 50 million babies have been aborted. Over the decades, we've seen and heard heated protests on both sides. While abortion has become a political issue, it has always been a moral issue. The Bible confirms that our Father Yahweh loves both the born and the unborn. In our booklet, The Value of Life, we examine the abortion issue from many facets, including the number and demographics of abortion, reasons why women choose abortion, and its physical and psychological impact. We also show evidence from both medical science and the Bible that life begins in the womb. In addition, this publication offers real alternatives and solutions to abortion, including information on interim foster care and adoption. We also answer the important question, is it possible to find forgiveness for abortion? If you are concerned or would like to learn more about the abortion issue or possibly contemplating this course, we encourage you to request this free booklet. It will open your eyes to what so many are missing in this age of disregard for what is holy. Request our free booklet now by dialing 1-573-896-1000 or write to Discover the Truth, P.O. Box 463, Holt Summit, Missouri 65043. Read and request from our website, yrm.org.
To understand the Word like never before, order your copy of the Restoration Study Bible today. This unique resource provides insight into the Hebrew and Greek text with over 7,000 footnotes, Strong's numbering, and the Strong's dictionaries. Corey wrote us and said, "Got mine last week, and I love it. I highly recommend the RSB." Kathy says, "It's awesome. We are truly blessed to have all this in one study Bible and with the Strong's references. Thank you for helping me learn Yahweh's Word in a deeper way. Can't wait to show my friends and those in my congregation." To receive your own Restoration Study Bible, order online at yrm.org/Bible or by credit card Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time by calling 573-896-1000. To keep this amazing resource affordable, we are offering it for the low price of $25 plus shipping and handling. The RSB will open your eyes to truths that you have never seen before, so order yours today.
Welcome back. When we left, we were talking about the reasons for abortion. Now we want to talk about the impact of abortion. So, Kara, if you can help us understand the impact of abortion today, both the physical and the emotional impact.
Again, all kinds of studies available, and I will go through some of that, but we can't lose the human emotional element, to it, of the women who have been affected. Emotionally, it really does make a difference. There was a California study that said that found 160% of the women who had had an abortion were more likely than delivering women who had babies, to be hospitalized for psychiatric treatment in the first 90 days after the abortion. After 8 weeks, there were 44% of them said that they were suffering from nervous disorders, 36% had sleep disturbances, 31% regretted the abortion. 60% of those who experienced some type of post-abortion syndrome had suicidal thoughts, 28% of them attempted suicide. That coincides with a study that was done a few years ago in Finland that found women who had had abortions ended up attempting suicide 3 times more often than the general public, 6 times more often than women who had given birth. Women who have gone through abortions, and certainly we can't say that all women have gone through this, but there is an emotional component to so many of them. I've met way too many women who've had an abortion, and the regret, the loss, the pain that they feel is so real that even though those in the abortion industry still try to deny that post-abortion syndrome exists, that the women really don't have a problem, they just, there's a sense of relief as soon as it's over, and then they move on with their lives. There are too many women in this country that are hurting from their abortions. I had one woman, this was probably 25 years ago. She lived with me for a while. She was in between jobs and needed a place to stay. She had an adorable 3-year-old little son. And we were talking one evening, and she finally told me that she had, in her young life, she was in her early 20s, she'd been pregnant 4 times. She was the first time she was in high school, she had the baby and gave the child up for adoption. Her second pregnancy ended in miscarriage. The third pregnancy ended in the little boy that was with her, and she got pregnant again and had an abortion. And she started crying, and she said, I have been forgiven. I know that abortion is no longer held against me, but I have to live with that for the rest of my life. And if I could do anything over again of all, those 4 pregnancies, that abortion is the one that will be with me and that I will have to, regret and live with. This is something that is very real. And I feel so sorry for the women who have gone through this. And I would hope that they would know that there is forgiveness. We hear stories of women sitting in the church pews, and they are in our churches. A lot of women who would say that they are Christian and they go to church have had abortions. But they are sitting there thinking that is the one sin that can't be forgiven. Mm-hmm. And of course it can be forgiven. But they need to hear that, either from the pulpit or from the people sitting next to them in the pews. We have to make sure that we are not judging and not condemning the women, because this is something that they won't forget it. It can be forgiven. God will forget the sin, but that's something that they will deal with. They're driving through down a street, and they come to a school where kids are playing in a playground, and they would think, my child would be 6 years old and running around with those children, but
Sure, I'm sure almost every day they deal with it in some way.
Yeah,
some reminder is brought up.
There is a psychological component to the abortion. Women who have had abortions are more likely to get into drugs, alcohol. Either some of them will abuse their other children. They will report that they have relational problems with the father of the child that was aborted, Or if maybe their parents are the ones that encourage them to get the abortion, they have a hard time then relating to the parent. That this really does impact them in so many ways.
You mentioned forgiveness. I want to read just something real quick here. 1 Corinthians 6, the Apostle Paul is speaking, and it doesn't mention murder here, but I think we can assume that that's included. Verse 9, where it says verse 9 says, "Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of Yahweh." It says, "And such were some of you, but you are washed, but you are sanctified, but you are justified in the name of the Master Yahweh by the Spirit of our Elohim." And so we find here these sins that were committed. And then Paul says at the very end, some of you are these things. And you've been washed, you've been justified, you've been sanctified in the name of Yahshua. So we know that forgiveness can be found, and I think that's a very important point
we're all
emphasize.
sinners. None of us are perfect. We have all fallen short of the glory of God. This sin is no more unforgivable than lying or stealing from your boss, but it's something that for many women it's hard to accept. And
it's something we need to repent from, but we know the Scripture
Yes.
says that if we confess our sins,
yes,
especially if we did so unknowingly or ignorantly, not realizing that the cost or the consequences of what we were doing. So I think you're right, and I think that's a message that women need to understand. This is not the unpardonable sin that they can find no forgiveness from. They can find forgiveness, and the best thing is to recognize, I think, the mistake and get involved, and certainly not repeat it through another abortion.
Mm-hmm. And there are also physical complications to the abortion. Mm-hmm. There can be future miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, infertility. One of I think the biggest things we're going to find out in the coming years is the link between abortion and breast cancer. That when you're pregnant, your estrogen levels go up. You get the abortion, and all of a sudden, the estrogen is kind of like, oh, what do I do now? Mm-hmm. And it's that the estrogen and actually, it becomes a carcinogen, mm-hmm. and that impacts then I think the increase in breast cancer. The official medical organizations like the AMA refuse to accept that there is any correlation whatsoever. But I think the evidence is growing year by year that they're not going to be able to put that off. Now, certainly not every woman who gets breast cancer has had an abortion, but that is one of the most, not getting an abortion is one of the most preventable ways, to decrease the risk of breast cancer. So there is a lot of physical problems that can go along with this as well.
We have right over 3 minutes left in this program, and I want to make sure that we talk about some of the preventative or alternatives to abortion. So maybe you can help us with that, Carol.
Well, I think one of the best, I don't know if I'd say it's a solution, but best arms of the pro-life movement belong to the pregnancy resource centers. They are offering support to women who aren't sure that they can go through with this pregnancy, not sure if they're looking, they don't know if they're looking for an abortion or not, maybe they are. But the pregnancy centers will provide, and most of them will provide ultrasounds so that the pregnant woman can see her baby. And then looking at that baby, it no longer becomes a baby, it's her baby. And it personalizes them because they can see their baby on the monitor. They offer clothing support, medical personnel to help with the prenatal care, diapers, baby clothes. Many of them have expanded now so that they are doing educational training. They will help maybe to do some kind of career training so that she can get a job and take care of her baby, classes on how to be a good parent, and so much, just hands-on work so that the woman realizes she's not going through this alone.
We actually know a family in Texas that has they have a pregnancy center in Cisco. And it's very similar to what you described. They have these classes, everything mm-hmm. from how to raise a child. They have cooking classes. It's kind of neat what they do. They each video you watch or each class you attend, they give you, I think, what was called baby bucks. I could be wrong with that, but something like that, an incentive. And with these baby bucks, you can buy things like clothes and food and even things like strollers. And they too offer ultrasounds. And I believe, and maybe you can verify this for me as well, but the state of Texas, I believe, requires an ultrasound before an abortion. So they will then provide that service. So if you are contemplating about an abortion, you can go to their clinic and receive the ultrasound. And hopefully, the hope is it will receive also maybe the training where they realize that being within them is a life. So it really is a great cause. And I know the opportunity I had to visit, it was just such a wonderful thing to see the initiative there to educate and help these people realize that it is a life and it's an important life.
What a lot of people don't realize is that there are more pregnancy resource centers in the country than there are abortion facilities. There are a little over 1,700 places where you can kill your child, abortion facilities, but there are about 2,600 places, the pregnancy centers, where you can go get help, life-affirming help to carry on with the pregnancy.
I wonder why, if that's another reason that abortions are coming down. People are turning on to this and finding there's an alternative. It isn't just dispose. It's
we have about 19 seconds. I want to just mention very quickly, and I wish we could give more time to this, adoption. Speak very quickly to this.
Adoption is a great alternative for a woman who doesn't think she can raise her child but doesn't want to take that step of killing her child. A lot of families in this country would love to take care of that baby.
Well, Carol and Alan both, thank you for a second program and being here. And such a blessing to review the pro-life issue, an important issue. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. And pray that you would join me and us every week for Discover the Truth. May Yahweh bless. And bye-bye.
For today's free offer, call now. Operators are standing by. Dial 1-573-896-1000 or write to the address on your screen. Request online by visiting one of the most extensive religious websites on the internet, yrm.org. Help support Discover the Truth. Donate by credit card by calling during regular office hours, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time, or give online, donate.yrm.org. For a one-time yearly donation of $25 or more, we would like to send you a gift, a one-year subscription to our bi-monthly Restoration Times magazine. This magazine will unlock Bible truth that will simply amaze you. For more information or to read online, visit restorationtimes.org. Join us again next week as we take you on a journey of understanding, walking the pathways of the Messiah and his apostles, exploring the Hebraic origins of the faith, and carving away man's tradition as we discover the truth.